Silicon Valley, that part of California where CPUs are designed, startups flourish, and no one can afford to buy a house. But did you ever stop to think about why it's called Silicon Valley? Why exactly does silicon seem to be so universally used for electronics instead of some other material like copper, graphite, or potato? Well, silicon has a number of properties that make it unusual among chemical elements. Right now, scientists know of 118 elements, and of those, only 6 are commonly classified as metalloids, silicon being one of them. These metalloids exhibit metal-like characteristics, but aren't true metals. Usually, they have a silvery, shiny look, like true metals, but instead of being malleable, they're often quite brittle, meaning they can break apart easily. And although they can conduct electricity, like metals, they aren't quite as good at it, which is where the word semiconductor comes from. This semiconductivity is especially important because while obviously computers and other things that use microchips need electricity to run, their whole principle of operation relies on being able to let electricity pass through certain transistors selectively, which you can learn more about in Their whole principle of operation relies on being able to let electricity pass through certain transistors selectively, which you can learn more about in Their whole principle of operation relies on being able to let electricity pass through certain transistors selectively, which you can learn more about in this video. A normal metallic conductor would let electrons through too easily, meaning way too many transistors would light up at once, and your CPU wouldn't be able to process instructions correctly, which is okay if you want your computer to serve as a very expensive paperweight, or a cheap one, I guess, as it were. Which is all fine and good then, Linus, but you still haven't answered the question. Why silicon specifically, instead of some other semiconductor like germanium? Well, although Silicon Valley might be an expensive place to live, actual silicon is quite cheap, and it's also pretty easy to find in the Earth's crust. In fact, silicon is one of the most common elements in the universe. So it's fully possible that spacefaring civilizations in some distant galaxy are using silicon CPUs to play Plants vs. Humans or whatever. Silicon also has other benefits, such as being able to operate well at a wide temperature range, stock coolers, am I right? And it can be easily doped with other chemicals that are necessary for microprocessors to work. For example, it's quite easy to form an insulating layer of silicon dioxide just by sticking silicon into a hot furnace. The tiny transistors in a CPU need insulated areas to further control and direct the flow of electricity with precision, so silicon's versatility makes it a natural choice. But even though silicon has proven to be extremely useful, it is not perfect. Although it's cheap and abundant, there is a trade-off with how quickly it can conduct electricity. Other semiconducting materials can move the electrons around faster, meaning that they could be used to make higher performance processors, albeit at a higher cost. And another limitation of silicon will mean that it will not be the universal material in our processors for too much longer. Transistors keep being made smaller and smaller and smaller in order to make our chips more powerful and more power efficient. But we're getting to the point where silicon can't be made into transistors much smaller than what we have already due to its chemical properties. In fact, Intel has already announced that for its 7nm chips that could be released around 2020, it will be using something other than silicon. To put that in context, 7nm is only about 35 atoms wide. So there you have it. While smaller transistors and faster CPUs may require more exotic materials, there's no doubt that the path to this future of tomorrow was paved with silicon. I mean, quite literally, really, if you think about it. They used to use it in, like, pottery and bricks. They still do use it in bricks, if you count.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and this is Chemistry Essentials video 35. It's on the rate of reactions, or the speed of reactions. Now, some reactions we might think of as incredibly slow. In other words, the rusting of this train car is going to take years and years to occur to fully complete that reaction, if it ever is completed. But if we wanted to speed that up, we could do it by increasing the surface area of that iron. And we do that in a hand warmer. A hand warmer is essentially a bunch of iron that has been shredded to increase surface area. And so when you pull it out of a bag, it's going to combine with the oxygen and it's going to create a certain amount of heat. And that happens really, really quickly. And so again, the rate of reaction is going to be different for the reactants and the products, but we also have a certain amount of control over that. And so in a chemical reaction, the rate is simply the number of reactants that are converted to products in a given time. And so let's say the red and the blue represent reactants, and we combine those together to make products. The more quickly that we can do that, the faster our reaction rate is going to be. And there are a number of things that are going to affect that. The concentration, in other words, the more reactants we have, the more quickly they're going to find each other and the faster that reaction is going to occur. And also the pressure, in other words, if we decrease the size of that vessel that they're in, then we're going to have more of those reactions going on. Also, it's going to be the phase that it's in. Clearly, if it's in a gas, in an enclosed container, we might have faster reactions than we would if it's a liquid. And then finally, environmental factors. Things such as temperature and surface area are going to affect the rate of the reaction as well. And so if we're looking at two reactions, the rusting of metal and the combustion of wood in this case, both of those are going to have reactants, and I've marked those as A, and products, and I've marked those in C. And so the rate of reaction is going to be represented in this formula right here. And it's really simple. It's not that complex. It's either going to be the negative change in the concentration of A. In other words, we're going to have a decrease in the amount of reactants over a given amount of time. Remember, delta is just going to be the change. Or we could measure it as the amount of products that are being created over time, because those are essentially going to be the same thing. The more reactants we have being consumed over a given period of time, the faster that reaction is going to be. And likewise with the
Today we're looking at the different factors that affect the rate of a chemical reaction. What we're going to start off by looking at is the surface area, how that can affect it. And if we've got the same amount of material, if the particles are smaller, then we increase the surface area. So, for example, if we've got a lump of material which may contain 20 particles in total, it's only the particles on the outside which are available for immediate reaction. If you count them up, you'll see that there are just 16 particles that can react straight away. However, if we break it into smaller pieces, then all 20 particles are available for immediate reaction, so the reaction will be quicker. We can do an experiment to demonstrate this. Okay, this is the experiment. Here we've got 3 beakers, each containing dilute hydrochloric acid, and these containers have got marble in them. The chemical name for marble is calcium carbonate. Here the marble is divided up into fine powder. In this one it's relatively, well, medium-sized chips, and here there's fairly large chips of calcium carbonate. Now what we're going to do is going to put them into the dilute hydrochloric acid, and just by observing it, make a note of the rate of reaction, how fast the reaction goes. In other words, how fizzy it gets. This is the one with the large chips. As you can see, the reaction's fizzing. It's not particularly rapid, but it's going fine. And the reaction shouldn't take too long to complete. With the medium-sized chips, however, you can see the reaction's much faster. And then we come to the powdered calcium carbonate. It's fairly obvious to see that the surface area, increasing the surface area, increases the rate of reaction.
Welcome to another segment with Dave and myself, and today, first thing in the morning, I'm going to talk about my favorite subject, vaginas. I like vaginas. Yes, I'm a male, I have testosterone. It's not a sexist thing, it's a vagina thing. Alright, we're going to talk about vaginas. We're also going to talk about males' organs, the penis.
Just for the record, Tony, I'm with you on this one.
Any male that has a solid set of testosterone flowing through his veins enjoys a good vagina. All of us. Now, some of you women are having problems with the vaginal area. Okay? I can just see my friend now, my other colleague in the alternative. She's going to say, oh my gosh, he's talking about vaginas. Yes, I'm going to talk about vaginas. A lot of you women, all kidding aside, a lot of you women are having problems having sex. You are in a lot of pain. When you have, even to go near the opening, puts you in a lot of pain. And this is not ranging, and I'm not talking older women, you know, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where there's a little bit of a drying up because of aging. I'm talking about 19, 20s, 30-year-old women, 40-year-old women who should be at the prime of their sexual drive. You know, by the time you get into that mid-20s, early 20s, and then when you get into the 40s, you're a raging hormone, because that's what happens with women when they get into their 40s. You guys are married to women who are in their 40s, hang on to their hips, grab a seatbelt, it's one heck of a ride. But a lot of you are having pain. A lot of you cannot have intercourse, or if you are having intercourse, it is excruciating painful. And some of you who are trying to have babies or make babies are having spontaneous abortions 6 to 8 weeks into the first part of the first 3 months. And so some of you are wondering, what's wrong with you? Why am I having these issues? Okay, and same with the men. Now you men, a lot of you guys in your 20s, you're not waking up with that tent every morning. You are, you wake up and the tent's not up, and Mr. Happy's not looking at you saying, good morning, Mr. Sunshine. That's happening.
I'm ready for today. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we going to do today?
That's right, exactly. Well, I am ready to rock and roll, strut and stroll. What's happening? It's not happening with you guys. Okay, same thing. You're both genders, and I'm not talking, again, 70 and 80-year-old men. I'm talking 19, 20, 30, 40, because I get emails all the time. Tell them what do you got for ED. Tell them what do you got for, giving me a longer, stronger, whatever. I get this all the time. And what's happening is you're being castrated. A lot of you moms who did not vaccinate, having children with autism. Okay? Why is that? You didn't vaccinate the child, but you have a child that is autistic. What is the common theme here? Let's talk about glyphosates. A lot of you think that you have to eat gluten-free, whatever they're telling you in the bullshit in the health food industry, because it's pure bullshit. Gluten would never cause any health issue. We have been eating gluten our whole existence as humans. never had problems. It wasn't until there was a genetic interference and a chemical additive. Now, all of you who are talking about you're eating your soy, I'm eating my tofu, and my edamame, and my whatever, I'm eating my fermented shit that you call food. Okay, because that's what it is, fermented shit. This food is the most poisonous food on the planet before you altered it. The glyphosates in soy, okay, are so dangerous. It's like a double whammy. When you eat soy, the soy that you're eating today spreads aluminum in the body, number one. Number two, they're spraying nano silver in the soy, which also gets spread in the body. Okay? What's the cause of all this stuff? Glyphosates. Glyphosates. And we're going to give you a list of some of the foods that have it, and the list is extensive. It's huge. It's really huge. We are talking 6 pages of things that have glyphosates. Now, what's the kicker about glyphosates? Why is it all of a sudden women are having these issues? Why is it? Because it's a slow death. When you moms who are pregnant, gestating and producing a child, and you're eating grains, bread, soy, and some of the other foods that have glyphosates, this bypasses the placenta right into the blood, right into the brain. And one of the things this stuff causes is brain damage, thyroid damage. It stops the absorption of 7 key minerals or elements that the body requires. Without copper, you cannot develop a brain. It's what regenerates the connections in the brain, grows new connections in the brain. What does glyphosates do? It takes the copper right out the door. Okay, then you've got zinc. Oh, zinc. Now, all you guys there, you need that zinc. If you want to have that flag flying and it's waving strong, you need zinc. Because what does zinc do? It helps lead you toward testosterone. Now, when you combine zinc and copper together, what do you produce? Superoxide dismutase. It is a very profound antioxidant. Right below glutathione, you have SOD, which protects the glutathione. It protects your body from free radicals. And the highest concentration of SOD is in the lungs and the eyes. How you got floaters? You contact them, man, I got these floaters. I'm seeing, aliens in my eyeballs. Okay. Or alien material. UFOs are flying in. Alright. Reason being is because your SOD levels are down. Now how do you get rid of them? You increase the sulfur, which is another component that glyphosates take out, and you increase the zinc and the copper in your digestive system. And if you do it properly, you will be amazed at how in a short period of time you'll start clearing them up. Use a saline solution, a salt solution also to help remove this.
We did an eye wash segment.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, and go look at that. Alright, now, I'm going to read some stuff to you. I started off with vaginas because this is what's causing the vaginal. What's happening is this: you're not producing the estrogen because what it does, it's an endocrine disrupting chemical. It was designed to shut down any form of reproduction.
If you've been listening to the news at all, you've probably heard about the dangerous chemicals that are called endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs. Inside our bodies is a network of glands and organs called the endocrine system that produce, store, and secrete hormones. Normally, the hormones go from the gland or organ to the other organs and fit right into specific receptors expressed in cells. Kind of like how a key goes into a lock. But when EDCs get into the body, they can mimic the shape of the hormone, and they go into the receptor instead. They can trick the body into thinking they are a hormone or block the hormone from fitting into its receptor. Fooling a cell in this way can trigger abnormal processes in the body. This can wreak havoc on the entire endocrine system and may lead to severe health consequences. EDCs have been linked to human health issues related to sperm quality, fertility, abnormalities in sex organs, endometriosis, early puberty, nervous system function, immune function, cancers, breathing problems, metabolic issues, obesity, heart health, growth, neurological and learning disabilities, and more, because hormones regulate nearly every process in the body. What's worrisome is that exposure to EDCs can happen anywhere and come from the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink, and through the skin. Some EDCs even transfer from mothers to fetuses and infants. They can be found in industrial chemicals that leach into soil and groundwater and then make their way into the food chain and build up in fish, animals, and people. Consumer products such as plastics, household chemicals, fabrics treated with flame retardants, cosmetics, lotions, products with fragrance, and antibacterial soaps, pesticides, fungicides, or industrial chemicals in the workplace. The best way to avoid exposure is to check labels and avoid products containing known EDCs. Research on EDCs is growing, so watch for new information on products to help your family's health.
So when women, okay, you produce a nitric oxide. Nitric oxide allows, and estrogens, which allow that vagina to work properly. Now a lot of you women are saying that the inside lining feels very rough, very coarse. It's painful to touch. Some of you can't even alleviate yourself through masturbation because it's too painful to touch. Some are saying that the discharge or the fluid, the lubrication that comes out is a hot, fiery lubrication. Some of you can't even touch the area because it puts you in so much pain. And that's what it does, because it's shutting down the estrogen that's required for your bodies to have a healthy reproductive section so that you can have intercourse. Same with the guys. It's blocking the androgens. The androgens is what, testosterone, the highest concentration is the heart. And a lot of your I'm tired, I feel weak, I don't know what's wrong with me, because your testosterone levels are being bled right out of you. And nobody is touching this in the health industry. We're dancing around saying, oh, gluten-free, you should be gluten-free. Now, the lunacy behind gluten-free is gluten is a protein in every grain. Doesn't matter if you quit eating wheat, it's in something else. It's a protein that your body uses. So gluten is not the issue. And for those of you who have candida saying, well, I got candida, so I'm supposed to eat gluten-free. When you see something saying gluten-free, you better start thinking genetically engineered. Because when I'm taking that gluten out of that grain and feeding you this cardboard or whatever was left over, okay, I'm just feeding you pure sugar. This is why I tell you all the time, leave the grains alone. There is not one out there that's worth eating. Some say, well, what about quinoa? What about, leave it alone. Leave it alone. You're so addicted to this stuff, you guys, and this is what I hear all the time. Well, oh, you're loaded with glyphosates in the colon. Yes, it's loaded. And then you want to eat more stuff to feed it. And it has nothing to do with gluten. This is what I'm saying. This is the lunacy in this industry. Oh yeah, gluten. Meanwhile, glyphosate back at the ranch.
The voice is really doing it for me.
Well, because this is what I get all the time. I get about 300 emails and YouTubes every day, and I try to answer everybody. And that's becoming a full-time job. We've got to get a studio so we can just do this and not anything else, because this is taking up all the time. Even for my research, I was like, what the hell, answering these people. Anyhow, you are being bamboozled. The health food industry is run by the drug cartel. End of story. Okay? Fish oils. Nobody should be eating that shit. It's just shit. It's leftover shit from the fish industry. That's what it is. And then they say, well, we distilled it, and we took out the mercury. You can't take out the mercury. It's in the fat, and it accumulates. Oh, have your fish oil. Soy. Oh, that's a good one for you. Yeah, it'll protect you from nothing. It'll shut you right down. And then on top of that, we took a poisonous plant, because if you go look up poisonous plant in the database of the FDA, those effing dumbasses, okay, go look up there, because they did the research on this back in the 50s when they had some credibility. And you look up soy, there's over 244 studies showing you how dangerous this shit is. And oh yeah, it's in the health food industry. And I'm going to show you something. We're going to go a little off topic. I'm going to show you how they screwed everybody up. Now, this is going to be, we're going to talk about racism on some level here. So don't take this in any way, shape, or form that you have a superiority because of what's happened. Now this is, see, we got even a little high-tech board now.
Oh yeah.
See?
It's
Now we're going to talk suburbs here because this was a white or Caucasian, I shouldn't say white, Caucasian, ghetto. That's what suburbs were. Okay, this is your inner city. Okay, this is where the kids with the suntan live. Another ghetto. Now if you notice, they're separate. You notice this? This is what they call a double blind. Now over here, you have the Asian persuasion. Okay, over here, you have the brown race. East Indian, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever, okay? And over here, in the reserve, you have the natives. Now what did they do? Okay, they got everybody here, so you can understand how they divided and conquered the races here, so you can get over this racial bullshit that most of you are believing in, because it has nothing to do, I can't even believe that in 2015, we still have racial issues that we're dealing with that I'm thinking, didn't we outgrow this? Okay. Here, they were drugged. They had the jobs, they had the money, but what did they do? They debilitated them with drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, okay? In these cultures here, you go to the grocery stores in all the different ethnic cultures, especially the native, okay? And what did they do? They put nothing but endocrine disrupting chemicals in the food. In their grocery stores. Since you didn't get anybody, you know, any major chain here, you had whatever markets here, markets. And for those of you who are of different cultural ethnicities, you can see this. You go to the grocery stores and start reading those labels. I keep telling you, read those bloody labels. Okay, and the natives, basically, they just screwed them. They separated them just like they separated the Caucasians, okay? People of color, basically. I'm going to try to keep it in that terminology. It's not a black and white thing. People of color ethnicity. And so what they did is, with the natives, they sent them grains, white breads, white sugars, all these things, and these were all GMO. Okay? In the inner city, GMO. To those of you with the suntan, the real dark suntan, you're getting poisoned with high levels of glyphosates. I'm not used to writing on the board. Glyphosate. Okay? Glyphosate. Now, what did they do to this ghetto, to the white ghetto, or to the colored, I guess the white ghetto? What did they do there? Okay, not only did they drug them, then they got a health food industry here. Health food. And what did they do? They load, because if you go to their grocery stores, and it's not any different today, but you used to go in the grocery stores, you didn't have all these genetic foods or these endocrine disrupting foods. They got it at the health food store with the soy, with the canola, because they were told that was healthy. And then gluten-free, which is glyphosates. Now what happened was, everybody's crying racism, racism, oh, how come they got all this stuff? So they gave it to you. Now you're on the drugs. Now you're eating this shit here. Okay? Now, same thing here, you're doing drugs. Oh. And you don't know what planet you're on half the time because the statins are causing brain damage, causing you to feel a lot of pain, blood vessel damage. You're taking crap for your colon and it's not really doing anything, you're still feeling like shit. The natives, on the other hand, are isolated. Okay, so now this is what they get. They get to get fracked, which causes, again, genetic anomalies to occur in their food supply, in the fish and in the animals they hunt. Now they're eating GMOs.
What do you mean, how so? By the stuff that comes up to the soil to feed the plants?
What they put into the ground.
Oh, okay,
what
they flush down.
Yeah.
So even though it's flushed down so far, that some of that stuff still
it all comes back up, and not only that, but whatever's below the earth that's toxic is also coming up. In our area here, we've had a situation not too far from here where they fracked and all of a sudden the fish were coming out with 3 eyes and extra fins, and they genetically damaged them.
Oh yeah.
Well, all the crap from the farms, the pesticides and the glyphosates they're spraying on the farms, is going into the ground. And one interesting thing about glyphosates is they don't break down. They don't break down.
Period.
Period. So what happens is now same thing's going on with the Asians. Okay, we're giving them rice. Oh, the rice, baby. You know, eat your rice. Get it in you. Get it in you. You got too many Asians. We gotta wipe you out. Got too many black people here. Gotta wipe them out. Got too many brown people. Gotta wipe them out. Too many East Indians and Hispanic people. Natives. Oh hell, you're on key property. You guys got resources. We gotta wipe you out. The bank is the guys who's gonna win here. Everybody's fighting with each other about and the bank is the one that comes out on top. Oh, hey, these white people are dead. These brown people are dead. These red people, we can take over their land. Hey, we got some land over here. Look, it's got some oil, diamonds, all that. Come buy it. We got it for sale. Because you're dead. Okay, and that's how they've done it. Now, everybody is on drugs that they don't need. Everyone's getting vaccinated with shit you shouldn't be putting in your body. Nanoparticles, nano delivery mechanisms. And you are loaded with a material that has stripped you down of your body's ability to remain strong and healthy. I just talked to yesterday, somebody called me from North Carolina that does blood testing. She's saying they're finding stuff in the blood they've never seen before. So then I started talking to her about what I've seen with the Morgellons, which, by the way, has also been mislabeled. It's a lot of bullshit. What you're dealing with there is a nanoparticle delivery method of biofilm. This is what you're dealing with.
Nanotechnology is a term that gets bandied around a fair bit. The promise of longer-lasting bread, super low-salt soy sauce, even Kraft Foods' interest in a smart blob that can be made to taste like anything using nanotechnology have all been part of the highly speculative future of nanofoods.
But what about here and now? How many of these foods already have nanoparticles in them? And what do we know about the harm they might cause? Well, the answer to both questions is we don't actually know.
The term nanotechnology is used to describe engineered matter that's generally less than 100 nanometers in size. In other words, 1,000th of the thickness of a sheet of newspaper. Nanoparticles already naturally exist, for example, proteins in milk or ash in the air. But building nanoparticles into food or its packaging can change its nutritional value, lifespan or appearance. Titanium dioxide is the most commonly used nanoparticle in food as a whitener in powdered sugar, coconut and yogurt, also in sunscreens.
We hear so many stories about chemicals and cancer, it's hard to pick out which products are safe and which aren't. Consider naturally occurring titanium dioxide, known by its chemical formula TiO2. It's the 8th most common compound in the Earth's crust, and one of the most important pigments used in paints, sunscreens, cosmetics, ink, plastics, foods, pharmaceuticals, and more. Titanium dioxide is a marvel that blocks UV rays, enhances texture, and makes life brighter. But Europe is considering a proposal that would label titanium dioxide as a carcinogen, severely restricting the most common uses of this essential compound. We all want to avoid cancer risks, but does titanium dioxide actually cause cancer? Titanium dioxide has been improving products for more than 100 years. Because it is so widely used, it has been extensively researched and reviewed by government agencies around the globe. Don't believe every scary headline you read. At the end of the day, it's the dose that makes the poison.
Dr. Ricky Yada is a leading researcher into nanoscience in food technology. He's at Sydney University to brief Australian food industry experts on the rapidly expanding global field.
Well, there's a number of benefits that nanotechnology could bring in the food area. For example, the delivery of nutrients at a much more lower level.
But right now we don't even have a way to test for nanotechnology in food. And there's inconclusive research on both sides of the debate over their harm and benefit.
That's one of the concerns. What is the long-term effect of consuming products that have nanoparticles? You know, because of the size of these nanoparticles, because they're so small and they can penetrate membranes and tissues, there is some concerns of these nanoparticles accumulating in tissues and organs, and will that have a detrimental effect to the consumer who consumes that product?
FSANZ, or Food Standards Australia New Zealand, says it's not received any applications to approve new or novel nanoscale particles for food use.
Right now, jurisdictions around the world are struggling with how to regulate nanoproducts. Right at this point in time, no products have actually been approved for nano release.
But Friends of the Earth estimates there's now hundreds of food products available in Australia that may contain nanomaterials.
Without any doubt at all, there are nanomaterials in food contact materials, and in agriculture already available in Australia. Foods to which children are exposed, such as Mentos, donuts, M&Ms, and Cadbury's chocolate, we have no idea what is on the market here, and we have no idea what their impacts are. And it is our regulators that are responsible for tracking that and regulating that, and they're just not doing it.
We contacted Mars Australia for comment and were unable to find a local spokesperson for Mentos. For their part, the companies deny that they use nanotechnology in their products. Meanwhile, in the void left by little or no regulations, brands are being slippery about their definition of nanotechnology.
There's a basic assumption I think you can make that if there are new or novel ingredients in food, then the onus of proving that the food and the ingredients are safe should rest on the manufacturer and on the regulator.
Remember the whole GM debate? That was when consumers pressured food manufacturers into clear labelling, so at least while there was ongoing research, they could know what was in their food.
You know, with GM, we debated for the longest time at what level did that GM or gene have to be at in order for us to label it genetically modified. And I think we're going through those same debates again. The consumer's right to know what's in their food supply system. And again, that's a debatable topic right now.
While part of the problem is that nanotechnology particles are a relatively recent addition to the food stream, the other part is that we just don't know which ones and what they might be doing.
And you're getting it initially from here, because this is stripping down the body, so your body's defense mechanisms are not there. You don't have the copper to protect you from mold, algae, or viruses. Anybody today is telling you not to use copper, tell them they're FOS. You need 10 times the copper that they're suggesting today, because this stuff strips the copper out of your body, which now means you can't metabolize iron. How many of you are having anemia deficiencies because their copper levels are gone? Okay, so it starts from here because you're stripped down. Then they chemtrail you. Hey, oh, we can do the chemtrail thing now. Oh, hey, this actually works.
Something tells me, Tony, you're going to be using this quite a bit more often now.
Maybe. I can't draw worth of shit, but I can illustrate. And I can swear a lot too. I'm good at that. All right, chemtrails. Here's the lines.
On this Thursday, we had a little cloud cover in the morning hours, a couple of showers as well, but nothing like what they're getting in the eastern half of the U.S. As you can see, we've got rain and snow stretching from the Great Lakes all the way down to Florida, at times creating some major problems. This is the same line of action that blew trucks off the freeways yesterday in Iowa, created some downed trees. We had hail from pea to golf ball size throughout much of the upper Midwest Plain states, and of course it's still going on. Our fear is that rain in New England could create flooding issues yet again for folks in Maine, New Jersey, for example, perhaps all the way down to the Carolinas. Here in the West, we're seeing a brief break, but there is a chance for more showers coming our way by the weekend. Now, tomorrow it should be dry but cooler than normal, and tonight it's going to be cold enough that we might actually see some frost issues throughout the region. So folks in the orchard industry, even backyard gardeners, should take care of their plants. You can see scattered showers still showing up on the Pacific Northwest radar throughout the region. The heaviest, of course, well to our north. Here in southern Oregon and northern California, we've got a bit of an unusual situation. Now, this first portion of the radar cycle, fairly bland and typical, but then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow. Believe it or not, military aircraft flying through the region is dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic, or even metallicized paper products, but it's used as an anti-radar issue, and obviously they're up there practicing. Now, they won't confirm that, but I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I'll tell you right now, that's what it is. 50 in Medford right now.
And the disinformers will tell you, oh, it's just condensation trail. This, see, if you can see the steam here, that's condensation. See, it goes away. Whoo, gone. But those lines in the sky are above you. And then they spread them. 23 hours later, those particles
I don't know what you're talking about that you can't draw. That's
Okay, I'm an illustrator here. That's anybody can do stick art. I'm good at stick art. I can't draw people because it just, and the only thing I know is just one part of the body anyway. So and I can't draw that because it's illegal. Anyhow, all right, you're breathing that in. Now you're eating these glyphosate-loaded food. What's it doing? The aluminum coming down on you is being spread through your body, up and down, getting in your brain. What does aluminum do for you women? It causes metalloestrogens. Okay, your breast. I don't know if I can do this or not. I don't know how to do this now without looking weird. Okay, I'm just going to draw one. Okay, there's your breast. You have receptor sites in the breast. Down here, your ovaries send a signal to the brain. Brain. Send me some estrogen, send me some progesterone. And it says, okay, brain says, okay, whoop, okay, to hormones. So now it comes here and goes down, and you're healthy. And you can tell when you've had an estrogen release because your breasts are pumped, okay? They're pumped, they're a little bit more firmer, whatever. And then within a day, they sort of, sag a little bit, which is normal. That means you've used whatever. Now, if I'm adding aluminum to it, what happens is the aluminum gets into the hormone, and it's like it turns on the switch. On. Okay, switch. Indicating you've got an estrogen. So now when your estrogens come down, it says, oh, it's already full. So now it leaves. Meanwhile, you've got metal poisoning. That's what happens.
Peter.
So can you test for glyphosate levels in your soil?
Absolutely. 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 You can test for glyphosate levels in your soil, in your urine, in your wife's breast milk, in everything. Cheese, Cheerios, Twinkies. This is when moms across America had the breast milk of women sampled for glyphosate content. And when they got the results back, you talk about some mad women.
So what was the level? Do you still remember?
Oh, I don't. I pulled this study a week ago because I'm doing it for the chickens. I'm putting all that together in the chicken information. I can't remember. I didn't write it down. I just read it, so I lost it, Ed. But the glyphosate level is way, way, way beyond what it should be in our systems. And so glyphosate now has been largely determined to be carcinogenic, okay, because it destroys the balance in our systems. Well, those people who have made glyphosate and use glyphosate, I mean, it unfortunately is a mainstay in agriculture. And it's worked very effectively, but what we have done is we have toxified our soils. Then we have toxified our food system because every disease that we have in the human population has been on a dramatic rise in a serious way since we did genetically engineered crops that were sprayed directly with glyphosate. We used it as a burn down. We've been using glyphosate since the mid-70s, but it really escalated. Worldwide, right now we use 3 billion pounds of glyphosate a year. The US uses 300 million pounds of glyphosate a year. And we do this year after year after year after year. So let's just take corn for half a minute. Glyphosate corn's GMO. We spray it once or twice with glyphosate. It's systemic, goes into the plant, goes into the grain, goes into the ethanol, goes into your gas. So when you start your car, you create exhaust, you now have airborne glyphosate. Where isn't it? Corn syrup. Soy. What's soy not in? 95% of corn is GMO. That percent or higher of soybean is GMO. So where don't we have it? Canola, GMO. The vast majority of it. So you're either spraying it with glufosinate or glyphosate. And glufosinate is just a sister product to glyphosate. One was started by Monsanto, the other one is done by Bayer. But they're twin sisters of the same evil mother. So that's what we have out there. And so we have all of these genetically engineered products that go into our food chain, and we just consume these. Well, this glyphosate now is in our systems. It's in our poultry systems. It's in our cattle systems. And so right now they're doing a direct cause and effect with glyphosate and Clostridium botulinum. And we're now seeing more and more infant deaths from chronic botulism poisoning, because as the children are fed, the breast milk could be coming from the mothers. A lot of your sudden infant death syndrome, that they just said, gee, you know, we have a protein imbalance in the blood or whatever. A lot of it, most of it is misdiagnosed. The big part of it is coming from glyphosate stimulation of Clostridium, producing the botulinum toxin, and it's killing the babies. That is a traceable event. Because when they take and they culture for that organism in these children, these infants that are dying, this is the chain.
I was at the organic ceremony they had in the Great Falls here, and they said glyphosate in a loaf of bread, you could find 400 parts per million in a loaf of bread. That's how bad glyphosate is.
Well, and see, this has become a practice, and this is how it happens. A lot of wheat farmers and barley farmers will use glyphosate as a desiccant. And when you apply, and to do this, you have to have a viable, you have to have a plant that's right there at the end drying down. And you do this so that it evens out the harvest, okay? And it's very effective, but when you hit the plant in late reproduction stage with glyphosate, and they fly it on, and you only need an ounce or two per acre, but to finish off the plants and kill the field uniformly, because you don't want dry spots and green spots because it messes up your harvest. The problem is at that late application rate, the plant is pushing everything into the grain. So you have a hyper concentration of that glyphosate in that kernel. And where's that kernel going? Bread, poultry, hog, into human food, flour. It just disseminated. A few years ago, your beer brewers wouldn't take any barley out of certain states because the glyphosate in the barley killed the microbes in the brewing process, and dang, there was no beer.
That was scary.
And we had Roundup Ready canola. And
you do?
Straight Roundup on that canola.
Yeah. And so canola goes into the food chain. How many of you buy canola oil to cook with? Glyphosate in all of that. And so this glyphosate does a very fast job of altering every biology in every environment. Our guts, our animals, our soils. And when we alter that biology, now we alter the nutrition, we alter the health. So pathogens, again, always produce toxins. Beneficials produce nutrition. I don't want to shift my population into all pathogens. This is how it damages us. So when we do things that alter our gut microflora, we are producing pathogens that then produce mycotoxins, neurotoxins, vomitoxins in us. Well, we're not designed to handle this kind of stuff. So your gut microflora is going to control 85% of your immune system. Does the same in the soil, same in our animals. And so which guys are we encouraging? Well, this is the problem. Glyphosate is everywhere in our environment. Everywhere. It's in our water, it's in our air, it's in our soils, it's in our seeds. It's just prolific. So what we have to do, and the defense that we have, is we can't keep putting in a toxin and just have it kill the good guys and push the bad guys. We have to reinforce the soil microorganisms with the good guys. We have to reinforce our gut microflora with the good guys. And this is the problem with agriculture. We're very good at killing things. We are not good at putting the good guys back. That's the balance that stops all of the toxin production and the bad guy overload. We have to put them back in. And then they can deal with the damage to the system. That's how we restore the systems.
Now with you guys, okay, same principle, except you don't have breast, you have testicles and other parts of you. Same thing happens, the testicles, and then when you have enough estrogen, before I go on, this one says, okay, we got enough, and the brain says, okay, shut up. This is a Coles Notes version. Now, if you don't go from estradiol to estriol to estriol, if you don't get here, and this sticks around and this sticks around, you've got a problem. Now for the male, it's the same thing, okay? Where is this here?
Just to clarify, when you said it leaves, does it get excreted or just
excreted?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the liver processes it and pulls it out.
Okay.
Okay. I mean we got a redundancy, or we got a feedback loop that, you know, when same with the guys. So if you guys, you got your testicle says, okay, send your hormones, send your testosterone. Okay, get it down there. So what happens is the brain says, okay, so now the other one says, okay, stop. We've got enough. No problem. But what happens here, the prostate, okay, instead of having zinc, which again regulates the testosterone on the receptor sites, the same kind of thing happens. You have a receptor, but now instead of having testosterone, you have aluminum, which produces estrogen, and then you wonder why your T levels are down. That's from the chemtrails. Yay, chemtrails. Okay.
After 10,000 years of genetic manipulation via selective breeding, humans finally gained direct access to the genetic code. Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. Since then, we've cut and pasted it, photocopied fragments of it en masse, sped read it with sequences, printed out the code letter by letter in the lab, modelled it on computers, and measured it with microscopes. For 40 years now, we've called this work genetic engineering. The trouble is that while there's been an extraordinary amount of genetic discovery and manipulation, there's been precious little engineering. Engineers are frustrated by genetics and molecular biology. The experiments are too slow, the complexity too messy, and growing more so all the time, and there's a frustrating lack of standardised components. They'd like to do to genetic engineering what engineers have done since the Stone Age: collect, refine, and repackage nature so that it's easier to make new and reliable things. Engineers want to treat DNA more like a programming language. Instead of ones and zeros, A's, T's, G's and C's. They want to use DNA to write simple, Lego-like functional components, inspired by but not found in nature, and then run them in a cell instead of a computer. The only difference is this software builds its own hardware. They call this re-engineered genetic engineering synthetic biology. Nowadays, rather than cut and paste the DNA sequence out of one organism and into another, you can, if you know what you're doing, just type your DNA sequence into a computer, or copy it from a database, or even select from a growing component catalogue. And then you just order it over the internet. Yes, really. The DNA sequence may be copied from nature, but the DNA itself is made by a machine. It's synthetic. The raw material for synthesizing DNA is sugar, $25 of which will buy you enough to make a copy of every human genome on the planet. The chemical letters are fed into the DNA equivalent of an industrial inkjet printer. In goes your sequence information, and out comes DNA, at a cost of less than 40 cents per base pair and getting cheaper all the time. It's then freeze-dried and shipped to your door. Already engineers have assembled an open source catalogue of over 5,000 standardised components, called BioBricks. At an annual worldwide do-it-yourself competition, university students build new and more complex BioBricks, string them together, and then run them inside a much-studied intestinal bacteria, E. coli. Sure, they're toy projects with shoestring budgets, but the results are impressive. E. chromi, an E. coli with sensitivity tuner and colour generators, is programmed to turn one of 5 colours when it detects a certain concentration of an environmental toxin. E. coloid is a bacterial system which switches on and off in response to red light and acts like a bacterial Polaroid camera. Groups with more time and a lot more money are rewriting, or call it in computer programming, refactoring, whole systems. Jay Kiesling, chemical and biological engineer, and his team at UC Berkeley have built and continually refined a new metabolic pathway in yeast by assembling 10 genes from 3 organisms in an attempt to produce synthetically the anti-malarial drug artemisinin, and to do it cheaply enough to treat up to 200 million malaria sufferers each year. Biotechnology pioneer Craig Venter has gone even further. His team has entirely replaced the DNA of one bacterium with a synthetic copy of DNA from another naturally occurring species, and added a few extras, like their email address. This wasn't creating life, it was testing just how reprogrammable a bacterial cell can be, an important step if we want biological factories which can be tasked to make many things, like vaccine, medicine, food, and even fuel. In the last 10,000 years, genetics has taken us from gathering seeds to manipulating DNA. And engineering has taken us from rocks and caves to handheld computers and skyscrapers. We can only guess what the two working together as synthetic biology may help us achieve in the future. But the possibilities are breathtaking. Engineering algae that can eat climate-changing carbon dioxide and produce less polluting biofuels. We might do away with both liver and kidney transplants and instead use a vat-grown, all-purpose biological sieve organ called a cliver. We could change the nature of construction, architecture, urban planning, forestry, and even gardening with a seed that can grow into a house. Or even return life to a whole planet by terraforming the long-dead Mars. Till then, synthetic biology advances project by project. As Drew Endy, civil engineer turned synthetic biologist, says, testing of understanding by building is the shortest path to demonstrating what you know and what you don't. In so doing, synthetic biology is already paying dividends by simultaneously expanding and testing our knowledge of cellular function.
Now, your homework assignment is going to be, I want you to go on YouTube, and I want you to watch Chemtrails, The Secret War. I'm going to write that down, because I know people are going to forget this. Now.
It's okay, Tony. I can do a title at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put it here so that it embeds.
Okay.
Okay. Chemtrails. The Secret.
Can you watch it for free on the internet?
Yeah. I want Secret War. And it's by an Italian research group called VO. Okay? Watch it. This, by far, in my humble opinion, is probably one of the best illustrations of what chemtrails are. They even did the studies for all of you purists who think the orgasmically organic is so healthy for you. They have found 23 chemicals from the sky on the crop. Okay, you're going to have to start doing your own indoor grow up. I don't think we have 2 years and we're going to be in famine.